Caput.
All views expressed in this podcast are the opinion of the host and in no way medical advice. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of Caput. Today I'm going to be chatting with Lee, and first of all I want to just let people know there's been a wee bit of a break there. So I've been a mixture of very busy with work. I was away there abroad working for a couple of weeks, Lee, and I got the old COVID as well.
Nice.
So between all those things, it's going to be 5 weeks since I released one, which is crazy how that time's just
Days
flew
turn
past.
into weeks, Tim.
What's that?
The days can turn into weeks.
Can't adjust. But then speaking of COVID, so that got me on to thinking about obviously there's a lot of things that, you know, were restricted and whatnot during lockdowns, and one of the worst ones for me personally was the inability to travel. And funny enough, actually at the time I had about 6 weeks of work abroad back to back booked and ready to go. And that all got wiped out, obviously.
Nice.
Not that I'm complaining like as if that's a big deal, but it's just give you an indication that, you know, it's just something I really enjoy. I just love getting away, different places.
Yeah, something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Stripped away.
Basically. So obviously then there was a couple of years of not really going anywhere. And I think one of the things that reiterated to me, made me realise how much I missed it, was we went then, what year are we in? 2022. So end of last year, we went just to Corfu for a week, just for a complete random, let's just go 5 days or whatever. And then whenever we got back, I was just like a different person. You know, and it was one of those you didn't realise you'd missed it.
Yeah, how much you needed that escape.
Exactly. And came back and just was like, right, where are we going now?
Refreshed.
Yeah. Because that's me. As soon as I'm back, I'm like, right, where are we going? Itchy feet.
Recharged, ready to go, focused, ready to kill it. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I say, that just kind of, made me realise how much value I get from being away at different places. Another thing I heard recently, I think I might have mentioned this on a previous podcast, maybe the one I was speaking with Aaron in Japan, but I heard Jamie Carr talking about one of the things he finds really beneficial about traveling, especially when he was younger, was the ability to kind of try on new personalities, as he put it.
Yes.
Which I thought was really interesting, because, you know, when you're at home, when you're around everyone, you know, you're just who you are at home, but you go away and you can try something on. You go, no, I don't like me like that, or you know what, that was a good side of me, and then you get to come home and
adapt slightly,
integrate that.
Yeah, you can integrate that if you feel beneficial parts of that personality. You can bring those into play in your own personality.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really good point. And then other more, I think a lot of this stuff is kind of, I don't want it to sound cliched or sort of like hipstery. All that kind of, you know, it broadens your horizons, man. But like, it really does.
You're talking to the wrong person then.
Yeah. I don't know, even airports alone, you know, if you need a lesson or two in patience, and just how blessed, for lack of a better word, we all are, you know, with the kind of access we have to stuff. I just find sitting in airports amazing. For that,
it's life experiences. It's all part of the life experiences.
Yeah. The other thing very generally that I always find when I come back from places, especially more sort of culturally different places, is like the people are just all the same, really, you know. I just think that's a really useful thing to remember, because sometimes you feel very much no one else is like me and no one understands surely no one else thinks this way, and certainly no one else is into the things I'm into. And it's like, not only, you know, is there loads of people into what you're into, but probably people that live in every continent of the globe.
No doubt, yeah.
I just find that quite a like pacifying thing that makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's quite leveling, and
yeah. What else have we got here? Well, as someone who enjoys photography and film, and again, so speaking to anyone else who enjoys photography and film, like yourself, Lee, I think, again, me and Aaron talked about this, but the two go hand in hand, because I think one of the most fun types of photography for me, or filming, is this kind of spontaneous, just kind of see a pattern in something, see a color profile in something, or a collection of colours.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you're away somewhere new, everything's
New to you.
catching your eye.
Yeah.
So, like I remember one time, I just fancied a wee change of pace, so I just went to Pisa
Mm-hmm.
for like 1 or 2 nights by myself.
Okay.
The flight was like $9.99 with Ryanair, and yeah, just I think I ended up photographing the people who were photographing the tower.
Yeah.
You know, that whole
Yeah.
thing. And again, just the random things that happen when you put yourself in those sort of spontaneous situations. I stayed at a hostel,
Mm-hmm.
which is another thing I would highly recommend to people if you've never stayed at a hostel.
Right.
It was one of the best nights crack ever.
Right. Okay.
Completely, like I say, off the cuff. Ended up with, just sitting around a table having drinks with people from 12 different countries.
All sorts of cultures. Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
And I literally didn't want to go to bed. It was just brilliant.
It's very
Everyone-
grounding too at the same time. Yeah.
It was very well.
It's very grounding. I think when you sit
Yeah.
with different cultures and educate yourselves on just different ways of life.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a great way to learn about your own culture too, because it's like anything when people start asking you about what's this in Ireland, this, or Northern Ireland, Belfast, that, you go, I don't know.
Yeah, you learn a bit more about your own culture at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you go home and go, shit, I need to be able to answer these questions next time.
You can also analyse your own culture at the same time, where you see the benefits and the negative sort of parts of your culture. It's a lot easier to analyse that from the outside rather than being stuck in the middle of it.
Absolutely. And I think as well, just as a positive side note, typically when I come back from places that have a mixture of cultures, I end up thinking to myself, if you live in this country, you're exceedingly lucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like me and you, Lee, have been born into a place that, what have we got to worry about,
Yeah,
really,
we're blessed. Yeah.
compared to most or a lot of the rest of the world,
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's useful.
Again, it's something we take for granted every day. It's how blessed we are in this country and how fortunate we are in this country. Do you mean to be one of the richest countries in the world and to have a good roof over our head and so on? It's stuff we take for granted. Again, when people are feeling down and know it's stuff they should realise that they take for granted, they'll give themselves that wee lift just to see how lucky we are. Again,
Yep.
There's always someone worse off than you. And sometimes to compare yourself with that person worse off helps give you that wee sort of boost as well.
So yeah, that kind of ties in. So you would say it's a good perspective
Mhm.
former.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I don't know, I find trying new things
Mm-hmm.
falls more naturally to me whenever I'm away,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm a huge fan of,
Mhm.
like I'm just such a curious person. So I don't know, maybe you get into routines and systems at home and you just go, yeah, there's a beach 15 minutes up the road, but nah. But when you're there and there's a surfboard there or a motorbike for hire or some scuba dive, you just go, yeah, let's do it.
Funny you say that. I can totally relate to that. Same, anytime I've been on holiday, I would be a very plain eater, but yet when I was on holidays, it's the only time I would elaborate to try different things. Now I have garlic and near enough everything I eat, but 10 years ago I wouldn't have touched garlic. I hated garlic, but never actually tried it, but just didn't like the smell of it. Tried it on holiday and never looked back. Again, I would never have done that here, so it just brings into sort of into relation to what you're saying. And again, the same thing, I would have jumped on jet skis and everything else, and stuff you would never think of doing here that you can actually do here. You
Yep.
just don't think about it because the opportunity isn't this. It's a different opportunity.
Yeah. It's like a mixture of what you're saying and the whole, when you're talking to other people who ask you questions about your culture and you don't know,
Mhm.
I invented this term for it called doorstep syndrome,
Right?
which is like you never do what's on your doorstep,
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah,
but yet you'll go to like California to try out their thing.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, have you been to that castle, 1 hour from your house? No,
no,
no.
never thought of it at all. Yeah,
Doorstep syndrome.
brilliant.
I think I made that up. I don't think I stole it. And I just thought it'd be fun to run through. So as I mentioned there, I was away for 2 weeks in different parts of Spain, just doing some work.
It's a hard life, Tim.
Oh, mate. Someone has to do it. And it was one of those where there was, again, an awful lot of mix of cultures
Mhm.
come together. So I was working with people from basically every country in Europe, not every country, but the whole breadth
Majority, yeah, brilliant.
of Europe, which is great. And even farther afield. So just a few things that I learned in those 2 weeks that I just wouldn't have learned as an example are as follows. So I had a discussion with a Venezuelan lady about
Mhm.
their economy,
Okay.
which was in a very bad state at one point. And it's just something I've never considered or read up in my life, and now I'm curious. I was spending quite a bit of time with some Lithuanians.
Okay.
So I learned a bit of Lithuanian. I've forgotten nearly all of it again.
I was just about to ask you what you've learned too.
I think Labos is all I have left, which is hello.
Oh, that's better than nothing, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Probably
it's a good start.
Butchering the pronunciation. And likewise, they were showing me this really cool app for renting cars. And I think it was Vilnius is one of the big cities there.
Okay.
And again, I was just blown away at how sort of forward thinking this app is. So you bring up like a kind of Google Maps type thing. It'll show you little points all over the city, and they're all cars that you can just walk up to. It'll tell you how much it is per kilometer. And it automatically unlocks the car. You can get in and drive it to wherever you need to go. And then again on the map, this kind of orange is where you can't park it, and everywhere else you can.
Right.
So you literally just go, park it as close as you can to where you need to be, get out and just walk away.
That's mental.
And the next person then will just come and rent it and take it maybe.
Mental.
And I was like, that's fantastic. So this person is explaining to me, a lot of people don't bother buying cars because this is very affordable. And I'm like, I just want to go to Vilnius now just to try it out.
That's forward thinking. No doubt, it's very forward thinking.
Isn't it?
It's giving people, as you say, that maybe would never have an opportunity to be able to drive because of the cost of buying a car, that opportunity.
A friend had got me, then this is random, but a friend had bought me an AeroPress recently.
Okay.
Do you know those wee coffee makers?
Right, yeah.
So it's the kind of one you get the cup and you set this sort of like a plunger on the top and you press it down.
Right, yes.
And you get to brew proper coffee in sort of 1 minute or whatever. So I use that every day. Again, I've 7-8 ways of making coffee in the house. So it was nice to have a reason to just use that. And it's great. And I'd highly recommend that product. If anyone's looking, if anyone isn't willing to drink instant coffee, basically like me, if you're a snob, then AeroPress travel size, really good. So I'm continuing this list of random things. Here's a really random one for you, Lee. Have you any idea what a group of pandas is called? Haven't
a clue.
That you'd never guess it in a million years.
Pandai.
To be honest. Pandai? It's a good guess. It's an embarrassment.
Right. To be in a group.
Yeah. A group
depends what they're up to.
Is an embarrassment, which was from a pub quiz that we did whenever we were away. I just thought that's a great pub fact.
Random answer you'd ever hear.
Yeah, you just how random. Similarly with you mentioned, Lee, with new food, so I was trying several different things that I've never tried before.
Brilliant.
I'm a big fan of that in general, you know. I feel at it all the time. I try and order different things off the menu and tend to, like most people, but I know this is nice. Yeah. But when you're away and you don't know what anything is, it's
you take a chance with something.
So that's always fun. What else do we have? And then one thing I mentioned to you before we started, which I find really cool. So I'd listened to an episode of Rogan with, I think it was Steve Rinella, who is the meat eater guy.
Yes. And
he was talking about traveling, and obviously he does a lot of sort of wild camping and all different things like that, you know, because he'd do big long hunts for days and stuff, and it's quite stressful and strenuous. And I would say definitely some of the work I've done abroad has been, it's hard enough work, you know. It's not a easy relaxing holiday. It's, you know. And anyway, his point was he kind of looks at traveling a bit like the opposite of a roller coaster. So if you imagine a roller coaster is everything at once, is super fun, full of adrenaline, and for 5 or 10 minutes afterwards you're just buzzing and you're all whew. But you're not going to go home and tell your mates about the roller coaster.
Disappears very quick. As quick as it came, it goes. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas, you know, the trips that he would do, and I can definitely relate to it to a certain degree, is it's almost maybe a fair while after you've come home is when things start to click in the back of your head and you start to make sense of things and you start to process what you've learned. And I just think that that's really true and quite cool.
It's maybe down to the stress dispersion as well, because obviously you're under a lot of stress when you're on holiday organising and getting everything going. Maybe just when that stress disperses and you gain the happy memories just rather than the stressful ones, I think helps too.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit like you could take that example and parallel it with a lot of things. Especially things that affect your mental health, I guess, which is, you know, quick pleasures are quick pleasures and always will be. And things that require a lot of planning and effort and stress you out and knacker you, they probably have much longer term benefits that you may not see right away. But like anything that takes a lot of work and effort, you'll see those rewards maybe further down the road. You'll learn the lesson. You'll see a parallel in the future. That's like that time I was away and that weird thing happened. I just think that's really cool.
It is, totally agree. It's the same. It's the same with addiction stuff. And you take that short term happiness instead of long term happiness.
Yes,
and that's a problem with so many different things you can relate to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they're a bit like being addicted to alcohol or cocaine or something instead of, for example, having the discipline to go do exercise to get that buzz. Like
yes,
go running
exactly,
or
and have
like
that long term happiness instead, because your whole mental health's better in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. I guess that's a whole separate. Not that it's easy, of course, to have that discipline. Like everyone slips
definitely
up.
Definitely not.
There's no question that those sort of, you can't just ride roller coasters all your life, you know.
No, and some people have naturally addictive personalities, and some don't. So again, we're all different, and some it's harder to manage than other people.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of things we talk about on here, Lee, is I always just think one of the most important things about any of these things we discuss topics wise is just being cognizant of them.
Yeah.
And what is it you're getting from it? What was good? What was bad? What can you do better next time? Especially as someone who needs to keep an eye on their own mental health, you know. So even from I listed there a load of random fun good things, but there were several things that were, you know, next time I'm going to change.
Yep.
Even just taking a little break in the middle, I think would
Just
make
to
all the
regroup.
difference.
Yeah.
I say again, maybe it's a topic for a whole other episode sometime, but you know, I definitely felt burnt out when I came back from this particular trip, and I think it was just not having a little bit of space.
Yeah, it was all pace.
Yeah. Just again, it's knowing yourself and being cognizant of what you need. But I think any introvert out there will probably appreciate that sometimes you just need your own door
space
to close and say, look, it's no one's bothering me, it's no one's fault, but can you just all leave me alone for a while? You know what I mean?
I'm a big fan of that. I get that very much so. I mean, I need to do that to regroup and clear my head on a regular basis.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. If I don't get that, then it becomes harder to gain clarity than thought.
Yeah, and again, it's something that I think a lot of people who maybe can be too agreeable for their own good, again, something I'm always trying to be aware of in myself, is you don't want to, you think, sure, it'll be fine. It works for most people to just be involved in everything. So I'll just go along with most people, and then you kind of say to yourself afterwards, no, that was wrong. I needed to say, actually, no. I just need a little window of time, a reasonable amount of time, which I'm sure any reasonable person would have been like, no problem. But again, as I say, I like just weighing up.
But at least you've learned that's the key again, is as you say, assessment. You've went back and you've looked at things, you've assessed it, and you've realised that, and you've went, well, maybe next time I'll take that wee break, because that wee break just will refresh me and help me recharge my batteries to where I'm not feeling so zapped when I get back, and I've got a good balance again, back to balance again.
Yeah.
It's looking after yourself while you're looking after everything else you need to do. You still have to keep yourself at the top of everything. You can't tell people from an empty cup. Do you know what I mean? You have to look after yourself to help others, and it's the same with anything. You have to be priority. You can't. Again, your children, if they're all sinking on a boat, you have to help them, but you have to make sure you're safe enough to help them. Do you know what I mean? It's the same situation.
Yeah.
Same reason to tell you to put your oxygen mask on the plane first before you help anybody, because you can't help anybody if you can't breathe.
Yep.
It's common sense. It's always make sure you're looking after yourself before you help others, because you can't help others if you're not at your optimum yourself.
Yeah. I think as well, whenever you're away places, you know, the newness and the excitement of it can throw you off and make you forget those things.
Yeah, it can be both exciting and intimidating at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done a lot of traveling, Lee?
Not certain this last few years with COVID, but I do enjoy traveling. I've travelled to Turkey quite a lot, in Spain. I have been a few places. I really enjoy travelling, simply because I think growing up with anxiety for so many years, it gave me that opportunity to, as you said earlier, again in the podcast, to try and be someone you're not so much trying to be someone you're not. Maybe you're trying to be someone you are, but you're feared to be that someone back home.
Yeah.
So it gives you that opportunity to drop your shoulders and try and be something that you want to be, rather than being something you feel you have to be back home.
Yeah.
So it does give you that opportunity to branch out and try different traits of your personality. I don't feel you're trying to be something you're not. I feel you're poking at different parts of your personality and trying them out, which is, say, back home you're too intimidated to do because you have that personality that everybody's used to, and you don't want to be seen to be trying to be fake or something you're not. But it's not what you're doing. You're just basically trying different traits of your personality, and that's so much easier to do when you're abroad, because you feel you've less judgment. You always feel you've less judgment from abroad because nobody knows nothing about you, so you have that blank canvas everywhere you go. So you don't have any stigma attached to anything that you've done over the years that you maybe regret. That's gone automatically. You step into any country, that's gone. So you're stepping into any country with a fresh perspective, and you feel everybody has a fresh perspective of you when you walk in that country, and it makes it so much easier to be. I think, as much as I say trying to be something else, I think you're not. I think it makes it easier for you to be yourself and let those traits of yourself that are hiding in the background come through.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Thanks, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just
I
my
don't
perspective of it. I think that's I think it's definitely what you're touching base on earlier. I think you're just more comfortable to step out of that zone that everybody knows you have. You've shaped a personality over all these years, and that personality is shaped into something that everybody recognises. And again, to try and alter that can feel a wee bit fake, and you don't want to do that because you're only trying to be genuine.
But at the same time, it's only people with a certain personality type in the first place that would be interested in trying to evolve and develop their personality.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're probably going to not be that happy with yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're not being true to yourself. So
totally agree.
Yeah.
It's usually people that are working on themselves and trying to improve themselves and so on, and trying to see their downfalls and improve on it. And that's generally the people that will be doing that because they're trying to improve and make themselves a better person.
Yeah. It's something that came to my mind earlier as well. I think when you end up in situations like the hostel is a good example. You end up with a lot of like-minded people because you only go to a hostel if you want to be in a hostel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I chose it because it was like the cheapest option, even though it was.
Yeah.
It's because it's fun and you know you're going to meet a lot of people, and it's like, well, you know, there's people, they want to tell you about their country. They want to tell you about what they're into, you know, and I just think that's something. It's a bit like any people that are passionate about anything. When they get together, all they want to do is talk about it,
yeah.
and share about it.
When someone's talking about something they're passionate about, you'll want to listen to them so much longer than anybody that's just talking about something they're not passionate about, because that passion shines through, as I said, with anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one last point that I had on my notes, but it's something I'm gonna have to research, and I'll get back to you on this one. But I think it's fascinating. I was listening to Jordan Peterson. So he was basically saying that when you're put into a new environment, that new genes switch on in your body, which I just think is incredible.
To help you adapt.
And like I say, it's a bit of a heavy topic, and it's a bit over my head because Jordan Peterson's obviously a genius. But I'll try and get that summarised a wee bit, and get back to you on it, Lee. But the point being, you know, when you voluntarily put yourself in a new place, you actually become more of a person. Yeah. I think that's a great metaphor.
You're evolving, automatically evolving straight away at that point. Yeah.
So it's a good metaphor and a literal statement as well.
Cool.
Hopefully everyone who is also a fan of travelling out there will be able to get going soon.
Yeah, now I've got a wee bit of normality back.
Yeah. I tell you, it's something I said to someone there when I was away in Spain. Just, it's like normal isn't a good enough word for how good it feels.
Yeah,
it's like freedom again, you know. So yeah, I hope everyone gets away soon and enjoys themselves. And that's it, really, mate. Thanks for being here.
Anytime, Tim. Enjoyable as always.
Cool. So hopefully we'll be back to the usual schedule, everybody, of every 2 weeks. Fingers crossed.
Now you've got a bit of time to yourself. Good.
Yeah. So, yep, podcasts will be on YouTube as usual, Spotify, iTunes. If you feel like liking it or subscribing or following, any of those things are helpful. And that's it. Thanks very much again, Lee.
Thanks very much, Tim. Pleasure as always.
All right. See you soon.
See you soon.
Caput.
Watch the full video podcast on YouTube at Caput Network.